Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we are taking a look at the final Power of the Elements cards revealed here today. There's like 8 more cards, sorry, yet to be revealed. Very excited to see what goes on here. Hopefully there's a couple of interesting cards. Usually in these final cards there's like maybe a couple interesting ones, but the rest of them are just filler, but it's always still fun to see. The fact that there's only 8 cards left at the end here kind of makes me hopeful that there's just less filler than general in this set than there is normally. There's normally like 10 to 20 cards of essentially just filler. You know they're never going to come up in like a real competitive deck or anything, or even a rogue deck really. But this one seems to be smaller. So let's get in this thing. Obviously we know for Power of the Elements also, like, this is they're going to finish the set aside from the TC exclusive version, which is going to include whatever the new archetype that's based on a unexpected type of monster, as well as whatever like imports and other TCG exclusives are going to come there. But let's jump into this thing. So starting off here, we have this guy. It's like a little boy with a flame tiger thing in a coliseum with like a bird, a phoenix on its back. Really cool artwork, actually. You can see it up here. Almost looks like a Shaman King character. Anyway, moving on here, we have Flame Buddy Erka, the Fire Beast Tamer. This is a level 4 Fire Warrior effect monster, 1500 attack, 200 defense. It's actually the stats, I believe, that give it synergy with like Gigabyte, I think, and some of those cards. Really funny. And 2 hard ones return effects. The first one reads, if this card is normal summoned or special summoned, you can target one face-up monster card in either player's spell and trap zone, special summon it to your field. Okay, so maybe this is like kind of a card they're releasing for somewhat Crystal Beast synergy, as well as I don't know if how pendulums synergize with this, because I want to say the ruling is that pendulums technically count as spell cards, not monster cards in this pendulum zone, but I don't know the official ruling on that. So if you can pull those out, but definitely interesting to see. Very cool effect. Second effect, you can target one other face-up monster you control, equip it to this card, and as an equipped spell, it gives it 500 attack. That's fine, gets it up to 2,000, and you can, I guess, put monsters back into the spell and trap zone for you for stuff like Crystal Beasts, which is interesting. The only thing I wish that second effect just said target a monster on the field and equip it to this guy. That would at least make this card like a generically like kind of scary card on the field, but you know, we're in the filler territory, so nothing too crazy there. Moving on, we have Propagandake. This is a level 3 Earth Psychic effect monster. He looks great. Is 500 attack, 2000 defense. Once per turn, he's an E-Tele target, by the way. The other one's a Roto target, so that's fun. Once per turn, you can declare one original type: beast, insect, plant, or rock. Nothing else. From among monsters you control, this card becomes the declared type. Okay, so you can only select those 4 types, and you have to declare a type of one of those, of a monster you already control, just to change its type. Weird. Second effect, if you control this card and if you control this card that has changed its type by its own effect in a monster zone, apply the following effects. If it's face-up monsters become the same type as this card, all of them. So I guess technically it becomes a floodgate like that, which is interesting at least. And monsters on the field of the same type as this card cannot be targeted by the effects of monsters your opponent controls of the same type. This card's weird. I really don't see it being too good. It just needs too many things in place. You need to summon him next to one of these types of monsters, which something tells me there won't be like the easiest synergy there. Then he changes his type, and then he changes all things on the field to that type, but that's not, unless like it's specific matchups, like that's really not even changing that much for your opponent most of the time. And then the final effect, like, can't be targeted, like, woo. Only can be targeted by effects of monsters on the field with the same type that you were talking about. Like, just meh. Just super meh. Next up here we have Hidden Jewel of the Hydrosphere, Katrine. This is a level 2 Water Rock effect monster. He looks really derpy. 500 attack, 1600 effects, 2 hard ones per turn effects. You can discard this card during your main phase of this turn. You can normal summon one Earth or Water monster in addition to your normal summon or set. That's actually interesting. Earth or Water. Okay. That's something to look at, actually. It is technically a -1, but it is like a double summon that doubles as a body to throw in the grave, which can matter. And the second effect, if you control an Earth monster, and a water monster while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. Okay, interesting. This card's actually the most interesting one here so far, I would say. You know, there's not a lot of earth-water decks running around, but I could see it being a thing in the future. I think those aren't like the furthest things from being combinable. And maybe he just becomes like a cool card for those decks. Like, get him in the grave and he just comes back for free, helps you extend plays, and gets you an extra normal summon to play through certain things. Like, that could definitely be something. So, interesting. Moving on here, we have this like crazy werewolf in a spell circle looking thing, in a transmutation circle. This is Evil Awakening Master Nightmelt. This is a level 4 wind psychic effect monster. Weird. 15/15 for the stats. You can only use the effect of this card's name once per turn. You contribute one monster, any monster you control, okay? Special summon one monster with a different name, but the same type, attribute, level, attack, and defense from your deck, or if you attributed a monster that was special summoned from the extra deck, or if you attributed a monster that was summoned from the extra deck, you can special summon it from the extra deck instead. That is so strange. Now, here's the downside, right? It says you contribute any monster, but ideally you're like, maybe I just want to tribute himself, because at least it makes him as a normal summon, kind of like a like a Lone Fire Blossom for like a specific monster, but it needs to be level 4 psychic wind with exactly 15/15 attack and defense. Psychic is not that well rounded as of a type, so I don't know how many 15/15 wind psychic level 4s with exactly 15/15 for the stats will be running around, but I don't know. This is a weird card, really weird card. Maybe there's something here. I mean, it certainly reads interesting. It does just kind of lone fire from the deck, but it's so specific. But definitely interesting. Maybe there's a couple of interesting interactions where you can get to some pretty powerful cards with this guy, but I just don't know them off the top of my head. To the Exceed, this guy looks pretty cool, for sure. This is Subspecies King Asura O. There's a level 3, or a rank 3 Earth Warrior, 2100 attack, 0 defense, so decently strong, 21. It does take 3+ level 3 monsters, so he better be good because he needs at least 3 materials to make him. You can only use a third effect once per turn. While this card has any number of materials, it can attack up to that many times during each battle phase. That's pretty sweet. He's 6,300 damage just then. Okay. If this card battles, at the start of damage step, it gains 200 attack. Permanently. Okay, so that means in one turn he would go 23, 25, 27, which I believe gives you 7,500 damage instead of... Am I saying that right? So that would be 200 plus 400. Should be 1,200 more than what you had before. Yeah, it should be 7,500 damage if your opponent doesn't have a monster on the field. That's kind of crazy. And the third effect, when another monster's effect activates quick effect, you can attach a material from this card. Negate that activation if you do destroy it. Wow, this card is just a straight up monster negate. It is a hard one to return, but it's literally a negate and destroy. It doesn't negate just on the field, it negates anywhere. So this could potentially be like an anti-Nibiru type card. And because you're making it with 3 materials, it's not like one of those cards where you make, if your opponent baits out that negation, like something like Rafflesia, right? Where you're only playing the one Gravediggers usually in the main. So if they use the nib to force out the Gravediggers, you don't have another interruption from that card for the rest of the duel, unless you're playing it in pure trap tricks. And so this card becomes like not only a way to like potentially stop nib if you can make it early, but then it's just also an interruption every turn, and depending on how many materials it has, applies a lot of pressure in the battle phase. That's a pretty interesting card. Obviously the downside is just that it needs 3 level 3s to make, which does get a little bit tougher, but still a pretty powerful card for what you're paying for. Interesting. Alright, definitely I think it's the most interesting card we've seen here. Then we get to Unlimited Free Radio Jamming. This is a continuous spell. If there is a monsters with 1,000 or more attack on the field, during damage calculation of a battle between monsters, all monsters on the field lose 1,000 attack for every 1,000 attack they have, and lose 1,000 defense for every 1,000 defense they have. Okay, so every monster is kind of just cut down to their hundreds, not really checking the thousands. It's just whatever their hundreds. So you'd want something that's like 1,900, so it'd still be 900 and pretty beefy relatively. Okay. And second effect, if this card is destroyed, all monsters on the field lose 1,000 attack for every 1,000 attack they have, and lose 1,000 defense for every 1,000 defense they have until the end of this turn. Just a fun battle phase kind of card, like nothing crazy, like, you know, whatever. You can, I guess it kind of like lets you like play a beatdown strategy. I could actually see that being kind of threatening. Just because it's a spell and you can just activate it into a board. Your opponent's like, oh shit, I've got Baronne de Fleur. This thing goes to 0 attack if he resolves this. And he goes battle phase. It is negatable though, so whatever. Then we get to some traps. 2 traps. Separation from the realm of the living or sundered from overroot. It's a normal trap. You can only activate this card once per turn. Has the artwork of the one girl. The newest ghost girl that's not really a hand trap. Target 2 cards in your opponent's possession. One they control and one in their graveyard. Send the card on the field to the graveyard, and if you do, set that card in their graveyard directly to their field. I was really hoping that it was going to say send their card on the field to the graveyard and then set their card to your field. That would have been so insane. Like being able to like send a card and like set their imperm would have been like so crazy. It's not a terrible card. It does target, but it sends, so it doesn't destroy. It can target any card they control and in their possession, which means like a lot of times you're going to be able to just like give them something like stupid. You know what I mean? Just give them something like that it's kind of a brick, an engine piece, or like a combo piece that doesn't even do anything after the first time you use it. So just give it back to them as a body that you won't have problems like getting back. But it's okay. It's okay. It could have been really high ceiling. I thought this was going to be like literally the next coming of Ice Dragon's Prison and like literally send a card and then take a card from their grave. I thought, which would have had like a lot of cool like interactions and like definitely a lot of like extra thinking with a card like this, but fortunately no. It's okay though. And the final card here we have is Twin Dust Trunade, a new back row card. Normal trap card. You can activate only 1 card of this card's name per turn. Target any number of set cards in your opponent's spell and trap zone, or in your spell and trap zone. Sorry, holy crap. Return to the hand both this card and as many of those set cards as possible. Then you can set spell traps in your hand equal to the number returned to your hand. I guess the idea here is that if your opponent's going to use like a Harpy's Feather Duster or something, or an evenly matched, you can bounce all of your back row to your hand and then choose to reset them or not based on what card they're doing. Like you could choose not to reset them, and then the Harpy's Feather Duster doesn't wipe them, but so you lose all your interruption or whatever, but at least you save all those cards and you can set them into the board later on. So that's something. It's fine. It's not as good as I was hoping. I was hoping it could maybe bounce your opponent's back row and itself, so that every turn you're able to set this and like continually like play into back row with this card. But unfortunately, it bounces your own. So whatever. And the final card here is showing that the spicy, like, amazing rare card is actually going to be a new version of Elemental Hero Flame Wingman. That is not surprising. This is like the Jaden set. There's a bunch of Elemental Hero support at the beginning of the set, which is cool. And obviously Flame Wingman being like the first Elemental Hero fusion we saw. Very, very cool. But yeah, all in all, nothing too crazy. I think the most interesting card is definitely this rank 3, but we'll have to see how much people are going to be willing to use 3 monsters to make it. But if it's easily makeable enough, like I do think that card's pretty powerful. And then some of this other stuff, just cheeky filler stuff for the most part. So nothing too crazy, but obviously let me know in the comment section down below if there's any other interactions you think I kind of missed that make some of these cards a little more interesting than I may have given them credit for. I'll definitely be curious to hear about that. And then obviously look forward to a set review coming soon. I think the set's pretty good, and I can't wait to do like a full-on review for it. I'm probably going to do like a bunch of editing in a video to make it look nice and everything. So stay tuned for that. Other than that, I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you later. Subscribe if you haven't. Peace.